Hi, how are ya? My name's Beta, and today I want to talk about how your experience in the furry community is what you make of it. You have control of what you expose yourself to, who you interact with, and who you're around, but it can also very heavily dictate your overall experiences with what you take out of it. For example, if you are constantly interacting with drama, or controversy, or problematic people and seeing all sorts of callouts left and right, or only really talk about the negative aspects of really anything, then you're gonna think that the furry fandom is riddled with drama and negativity. And you would be valid with your experiences, but believe it or not, you have a lot more control over your experiences in that than you might think. Especially if all of this revolves around social media, or at least the social online aspect of the furry community. So what do I mean by the furry fandom is what you make of it? Well, there's been some interesting discussions going on furry social media, especially furry Twitter, and what I like to call the #1 furry social hub on the internet. It's where a lot of controversy starts, some of it ends there, and some of it just kinda ends up being an echo chamber for the platform. But for the past month or two, and I know I sound like a broken record at this point, furry Twitter has been insufferable. Like, absolutely the worst thing ever. I've had to take my own break, or at least step away, or at least even curate my own experience with it, to sort of enjoy the social media aspect of furry. And I know what you're thinking right now, oh Beta, furry Twitter's awful? No shit, Sherlock, when'd you learn that one? And I know, I feel like I do a pretty decent job at kind of toeing the line between interacting with what I have to for the sake of covering it for a video, whether it's drama, controversy, because I like talking about it in a constructive manner, but truthfully, when I am not working on a video, I don't want to see it all the time. But I will say it, from the time that I have just kind of been perusing furry Twitter, or enjoying it in the realm of enjoying furry social media, I will say that furry Twitter has been so insufferable in the past 2 months. It all started with the boof drama, the boof bear that everyone is supposedly talking about. Yeah, that was still going for like 3 weeks. And believe it or not, I had plans to make a video on it, to cover it based on my feelings, critiques, criticisms, based on what was happening, based on what people were saying, and I got about like 2 to 3 days into what was going on, and then I realized, oh, it's still going despite me having like a 7-page script for what people are talking about, mainly comprising of tweets. And it got to the point where more and more stuff just kept happening with it, whether it was good or bad or whatever feelings you had about it at the end of the day, that I was just like, this is too much for me. This is too much negativity, and I've been exposing myself to this for a good few days now, and so I've cut the project entirely. As far as I know, I'm not doing a Boof the Boo video until maybe a later point when I feel at a better point to cover it. And that's because I felt my mood and mentality towards the furry community, or towards people in general, kind of very much degrading from all the negativity. And so the best thing that I could do as a result was remove myself from it, curate my own experience, and see what I can interact with differently so it isn't constantly negativity, negativity, negativity. And this is the level of discipline that I hope that everyone strives for, or I feel like everyone needs to some extent when they actively use social media. No matter what it is, no matter what community you're a part of, you gotta have some level of self-discipline for what you interact with, or when you know you need to remove yourself from interacting with certain things so that it doesn't affect your mood. You know the idea of how there can be too much of a good thing? As much as you might enjoy seeing and perusing through the controversies, through drama, through whatever the call out of the week is, there is such a thing as too much of it, and experiencing or interacting with it on pretty much a day-to-day basis, or as frequently as you might, can really put a damper on your overall feeling of that specific thing, whether it's the furry community or whatever other hobby you partake in. And if you gear this more towards furry social media, if you interacted with the whole boof drama for like a week or two, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that the furry fandom is riddled with drama, of people being nosy, of people being either problematic or constantly negative, because that is what you're exposing yourself to in your sort of little bubble of what you see and what you interact with, when there's so much more outside of it. Now keep in mind, the boof drama isn't even scratching the surface of what went on furry Twitter this past month. After the boof drama, something happened about Fur the Wind Studio, with them going bankrupt, and I guess taking action against people, and then some furries who had commissioned them completely losing their money, who had waited for like 5-6+ years for a fursuit from them. And so that was a whole discussion point, and people arguing back and forth about that, more specifically about how artists should handle and treat money, or at least the relationship with the customer to some extent. And then the most recent one, which quite honestly is the most frustrating because it's just like, we have been here and talked about this before, is supposedly the feral drama that is on the furry wheel of drama has become the new discussion point of the week on furry Twitter. It all started from someone tweeting about Cantanine and talkies, and then a bunch of people quote retweeting saying that that is zoophilic, and like, regardless of what you think or don't think, I'm a little fucking tired of constantly seeing this negative crap, which regardless is up to me at the end of the day to curate my experience. And the same thing goes for everyone else watching this or everyone else interacting with it, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with what happened in that set of tweets or posts or whatever arguments people are making. But basically the tweet, or at least quote retweet thread, starts with this one user saying, "Y'all think an Arcanine's asshole tastes like hot Takis?" Which, you know, outside of maybe that being insinuative of certain things, if you really focus on that, this feels like some shit that I would just say for the sake of being chaotic. I don't think anyone seriously thought about the whole Arcanine's asshole tasting like hot Takis. Like, it's so weird. But again, everyone kind of has a different takeaway from it, or perspective on what the intention was behind the tweet. And unfortunately, it ended up starting the feral art discussion drama in the furry community, where someone quote retweeted saying, "Poppy first, stop being weird challenge. Babes, that is a dog." And then someone quote retweeted that saying, "I don't feel like it's my place to say it, but the furry fandom has a very real problem with gray area kind-friendly zoophile shit like this, and I'm tired of pretending to be okay with it." Which, like, I know we could sit here all day and going back and forth about this. In fact, I considered even covering that whole tweet and what ended up resulting from it, with the back and forth of people arguing about the annoyance with, you know, the call out there, and some people thinking that, you know, it's zoophilic, it may or may not be. I just, to some extent on both sides, I don't care, because it's just noise at the end of the day, because we've had this discussion before. Now, regardless of whatever the takeaway of this is at the end of the day, it sparked a lot of people talking back and forth negatively about one another, or thinking the furry community is filled with zoophiles, or the furry community is filled with brain dead people, or the furry community, at least social media, is plagued by Puritans. That's one of the arguments that I saw. And as someone who has been on social media for a while and knows to some extent to have discipline to remind themselves that, hey, there's more to life than whatever the fuck you're focusing on, because also social media has a tendency to feed back to you what you interact with from it. So if you interact with more of these tweets on Arcanine talkies or whatever drama of the week, you're going to be fed that more and more, especially if your timeline by default is the For You tab. That is going to recommend you a lot of the stuff that you keep seeing and interacting with, even if you like click on the tweet once and read through it, even if you just kind of like scroll through it and then scroll back. Sadly, the algorithms for many social media platforms are designed to pick up on those small little things that you might not recognize that feed into what it's going to give you at the end of the day. I know we're getting into more of like the conspiracy theorist, like we're all a slave to the machine, we have to wake up sort of thing, but like it kind of is true with how it is. Social media, or at least the job of Twitter and the algorithm, is to make sure that you're scrolling and going through Twitter more and more and more. So if it sees that you're interacting with certain things more and more and more, it's going to want to recommend that. The same thing goes for even my videos. The more you watch my videos, the more you're going to be fed back those videos, whether it is about drama or whatever else I have to talk about. And it's all up to you, us individually, to curate that experience, to determine if we really want to keep feeding back into that, or if we're getting too much of one thing. And that's what kind of came to the case with me, with all the furry drama. I know there's been a time in February where I just really haven't uploaded as much as I used to, and that's because, quite frankly, I kind of burnt myself out of researching all these topics for the sake of wanting to cover it in a constructive manner. I know I'm like the furry drama slop YouTuber at this point, but I still do it because I'm interested interested in some of these topics and discussions. But it got to a point where it really was affecting my overall mood and mentality and thoughts towards the fandom at large that I needed to take a step back and just not interact with it. So with all of these different topics and controversies and discussions and quite frankly noise happening on furry Twitter, I've expressed it, and a lot of people have expressed it as well, that it has gotten a little bit too much and a little bit annoying. Some lamenting in the fact that furry social media used to be a little bit better years back before COVID. Furry Twitter didn't used to be this way. There weren't this many hot-headed Puritans or what I like to call high school 2 kids, where, you know, you have the 18 to 22 year olds who are very loud and think they know how the world works and gotta compensate for something, so you gotta yell about it on Twitter. But besides the point of my feelings and opinions on it, the reason why I have those feelings about it is because I'm constantly exposing myself to and interacting with those tweets. And it's really funny because I only really thought of this whole video idea and this topic of, you know, curating your own experiences on social media from a video that I saw last night with my roommate about the Disney Channel bumper. You know the whole theme of bump, 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 bump. I saw that video again from Defunctland for like the 5th time because my roommate hadn't seen it. I'm like, okay, we're watching it right now. It's a fucking masterpiece. Please go and watch the video. But there was a part last night that I had tuned into that really resonated with me and kind of inspired this whole video topic to begin with. There was a point in the interview process where Kevin Perger, the host of Defunctland, was getting closer and closer to figuring out who made the Disney Channel bumper or who worked with the person that made it. There was one interview in particular, I can't remember who it was, but it was some lady who had worked for Disney Channel with the marketing, or at least trying to bring in views or bring people in to watch it more and more and flesh it out into what we kind of knew and loved growing up. I mean, for me, I loved that Disney Channel. But there was a point in that interview where she had said something along the lines of how her job and a lot of people's jobs was to work on marketing for a lot of the Disney movies a year before they had even released. And one of the examples they ended up using was for Finding Nemo, which was supposed to release a year at that point when they were doing marketing, where they had on Disney Channel these little fish fact things, where they gave little blurbs of information about fish so that the kids watching it would become interested in fish. And it's like, oh hey, this animated Disney movie about fish is coming out. That's really cool. I know all about fish thanks to this Disney Channel thing. Let's go and watch this movie. And so to some extent, it kind of made me realize, oh, the marketing is happening in a way to make it so that we're interested in this thing and we buy it more or purchase it more or spend more money on it. And then Kevin Perger even says, oh, that's diabolical. And then she's like, oh yeah, I know. And I know that whole point from the Defunctland video kind of gets into the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist mindset where like everything is controlled for us and we need to wake up if we really want to be free, which, you know, there might be to some extent truth to that, especially with what I'm talking about here with furry social media. But I'd like to reiterate again, the furry fandom is what you make of it. Your experience in the furry community is based entirely on who or what you interact with or who or what you don't interact with. That's why I feel like nowadays we all kind of have to do our own little efforts to curate our experiences on social media. Like as time has gone on, and I feel like social media is becoming more and more of a reliance for people and more of a thing that we all just use, it needs to be something that we check ourselves with, something that we have discipline over. I'd also like to add, because I know someone's gonna say it because I haven't mentioned it, yes, you can focus on the bad problems in the community without being a negative Nancy about it, and me saying, you know, oh, curate your experience, oh, no negativity, no drama. I'm not even saying no drama necessarily. I mean, from what I've seen, I feel like people are just throwing around the buzzwords more and more. But that just could be me. That could be my takeaway, my experience, my sort of viewpoint based on what I've interacted with or seen. And everyone else's furry Twitter experiences could be entirely different. I know one of my friends was telling me the other day when I was kind of venting to him about some of the stuff that I've been really dealing with in life, and I'm just like, oh, you see any of this on furry Twitter? He's like, oh no, I just kind of go on there, post my fursuit photos, interact with friends, and that's it. It's pretty great. I'm like, how'd you get that? He's like, oh, if I see any drama, I just mute the account or I block pocket. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I do that. It helps me kind of curate my experience with it. And that is something I feel like all of us should be doing at the end of the day, but I feel like we don't take as seriously as we should. There's a lot of contradictions of what people believe the furry fandom to be, a very open and welcoming community where everyone's kind of looking to make friends with one another and everyone's happy and joyous and you can express yourself as a weirdo, but sometimes that is taken as, oh hey, I can be a friend with everyone because I'm a furry, when that's not the case. And so when there's like blocks or mutes or people not interacting with one another, it's all taken any sort of way. But basically, with furry social media being in the state that it's been for give or take a month or so now, some have said that the furry fandom is just not fun anymore, or the experience with it based on what they see online is really just souring the idea of what the community is about, or of people in it creating issues when there shouldn't be. And keep in mind, a lot of these issues that some might have about furry social media are only going to get worse and worse the more furry grows, and this is just an inevitability. Furry fandom is always going to keep growing. There's going to be more people joining it every day, especially online. I know we've seen that reflect in the attendance numbers for furry conventions, but you gotta remember, the internet and social media is an entirely different beast and a lot bigger than we could ever imagine. And that's why I say, once again, you are in control of your own experiences in the furry community. You are allowed to interact with whatever you'd like or not interact with whatever you don't like. But you have a lot more control over your experiences and your happiness in the community than you think. And that is something that I think everyone should take into account, especially those that actively participate in the online portion of the community. I mean, some people don't even need this talk at the end of the day. Some of you guys just participate in the IRL portion of furry, like you have like your fur meets every other week, you hang out with friends on the weekends, you have your own life and things. You don't even use furry Twitter. You've already moved to Blue Sky. You're done with that other website, and you don't have to worry about any of these things. You don't have to worry about the furry fandom being a negative, toxic place, or think that it is, because you're just simply not exposing yourself to those that think that as well, or look only at the negative stuff. I also just kind of realized too, I hope this video isn't perceived as being toxically positive, so I just want to go on the record for saying you can still address problems in a community. I'm not saying, hey, give up on being a negative Nancy and be ooh cute positive. I'm saying that there is a balance to everything. You can do that, but just understand the more you do that and the more you expose yourself to the negative stuff, to the bad people, in trying to reprimand others, hold others accountable, call out that behavior as much as that's needed, it can put a toll on yourself, more than you would like to think. And most of the time, if you are only interacting with that stuff, you're gonna think that the furry fandom or the community is filled with all sorts of shitty people in an entirely depraved place. I mean, some people might think that regardless of what their experiences might be, if they're even just watching this video. And that's why I say there is a balance to this. There's such a thing as too much of a good thing and too much of a bad thing. You gotta have ups and downs in life. Understand that even though calling out bad behavior is good and important, you should still enjoy the good that the community has to offer. It's kind of like a follow-up to the talk that I had in the last video about the problematic person issue in the furry community, which is the double-edged sword, where like anyone can join because the furry fandom doesn't really have a dictating force besides, you know, IRL cons and people that bully each other on Twitter. That's really it. So like the only thing that you can do is be in control of what you do, of what you put out there. And the best thing that I always recommend is to give to the world something creative, because that's what furry is about. It's a creative community. Regardless of the interest in anthropomorphic animal characters, we're all creative minds at the end of the day. We're looking to express ourselves and put ourselves out there. And so the best thing that I can recommend, instead of focusing on the bad, is focus on putting the good out there. Putting out there what you believe in that the community is about. So the lesson here for today, and this especially goes for the social media or internet side of furry, curate your online experience and try to be mindful of what you're interacting with, and if it's really feeding back into giving you a bad mindset towards a community that might mean so much more to you than what it might be offering on one specific social media platform. Understand that there's more to the furry fandom than what Twitter has to offer. There's more to the furry fandom than what I have to offer, than what other furry YouTubers have to offer. We might be giving you our own experiences at the end of the day, but your experience is going to be entirely different from that. It could be the same, but that's on you to determine what you're looking to get out of it. I also saw a really funny follow-up tweet from one of my fursuit crushes, Foster, or Jynn Pits, or Ozone. I fucking love that Twitter handle. Jynn Pits, that goes hard. Or I guess as a result of all the controversy and drama going around on furry Twitter, they had put out a quote retweet on one of their FWA con videos that they posted, saying, "The furry fandom isn't fun anymore," in quotations. "The furry fandom is amazing, actually. Most of you just need therapy and a fun, mature friend group." That tweet goes hard. That's really funny. I certainly agree. I mean, I know I need therapy, but I know that's a very bold and out there way to say it, but sometimes I feel like some people need it if all they're hyper fixating on is like the negativity and drama within the community. But either way, you are more in control of what you expose yourself to, of what you enjoy at the end of the day. And that's something that I am practicing as well. Not just in what I peruse or interact with on Twitter, but what I even put out there here on YouTube. I get that I've done a lot of drama videos and controversial discussions about whatever topic of the week is on furry Twitter, and those are well and good and all. I like to think my approach is supposed to be more constructive at the end of the day, but it still is drama, it is negativity, and it is a fraction of what the overall experience that anyone could have with the community might be. And to some, it might be tiring or exhausting. For me, going over all this has been exhausting. So that's why I just haven't done some of the videos that people want me to, like the Boof video. Because as much as the furry fandom is what you make of it and who you interact with and how that dictates your feelings and opinions, or I guess outlook on the community, it's also a lot more than that too, based on other people's experiences, based on many things that you may or may not have interacted with or seen. For hopefully the good too, whether it's going to a furry convention, or going and meeting your first IRL furry friend, or for me, coming this late July, going to my first ever overseas European furry convention, let alone being outside of the US as a guest of honor for Awustria. Yeah, I forgot to announce that, by the way. I'm a guest of honor for Awustria, and I'm really excited for this con, so we'll talk about details on that at the end of the video. But I've been rambling on for a bit. I don't know if any of this makes sense, so to sort of summarize everything that I'm feeling, I want to read a tweet that I put together earlier today. After seeing a lot of discussions, drama, and quite frankly back and forth noise about the furry fandom, just a quick reminder. The furry fandom is what you make of it, and you are in control of your own enjoyment in it. If you engage with drama, you're gonna get drama. In a predominantly online-oriented community, hobby, whatever you may think of furry, at the end of the day, it's very easy to focus on the things we see on social media and think that what we're exposed to is all it is. There's a lot more to it than just recommended tweets. The furry fandom is so negative and drama-riddled. Get off Twitter. The furry fandom isn't fun anymore. Try another creative outlet or sub-interest in the furry community. These people in furry seem awful. Focus on your close group of friends, or those who aren't awful. Or even on top of that, find a group of friends that you feel welcome and loved in if that's the problem. You are in control of your own experience and your own takeaway. And I hope to God you don't let the Twitter algorithm dictate what you feel about the furry community. I know it's very easy to kind of just see whatever pops up on your feed, but just know that there is a lot more to furry than just social media, and just Twitter especially. But either way, I hope you enjoy the furry fandom for what it is, and a lot more than what Twitter has to offer. So on that note, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I greatly appreciate all the support and feedback. You guys have been absolutely wonderful with a lot of these discussions that I've had. I mean, especially the last video that I did on the double-edged sword of the furry fandom, where, you know, everyone is welcome, but also everyone is welcome. Truthfully, I was really nervous about putting that video out there because I didn't know how it would be perceived, knowing that there was a lot of vagueness and a lot that could be interpreted with it, but it seems like you guys really loved it, and that was all off the cuff, kind of like this. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video just as much as you enjoyed the last one, and if you haven't seen that last video and you're not really sure what the context of what is going on here might be, please do check out that video. I think that is an excellent watch, and it's very good to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about any specific problem in the furry fandom, especially one that might be evident or more highlighted on social media. And hey, you know, I should have some hopefully not drama topic videos happening soon. Hopefully. I mean, I say this, and I'm literally getting ready as we speak to upload that long Bon Voyage video that has been out for however long now, or hasn't. I don't know how that's going to to be received, but we'll see. But either way, that's about gonna do it for me. Have a wonderful night, take care, life stay jacket, treat people like people, and that's about it. Yeah.